and welcome to Heal Your Shadow Relationships. I am your host, Neola Sparkus, and today our guest is from all the way down under, Renee Wade. She is the founder of the Feminine Woman website, where she teaches women to become high value, high status women who are authentic and highly sought after by men. She is the world's highest paid femininity and relationship consultant in the world. My goodness. Probably because there aren't many people teaching specifically how femininity and the feminine sexual essence impacts intimate relationships and how men respond accordingly. I love that. That was so cute. Over the last 5 years, she's impacted over 1 million women, which is impressive, with her articles, programs, and coaching. So welcome so much, Renee, to our summit. So you have the website, thefemininewoman.com. And yes. I want to ask you what brought you to want to do a website for bringing out our feminine essence. What motivated you?
Okay, what motivated me was my husband made me attend an Anthony Robbins seminar. And in that seminar, he introduces the idea of feminine and masculine energy, and I got hooked on that. And so when I came back from the seminar, I did my own research, and I learned a few things, and I kind of realized how masculine I was in my relationship. And so I changed a little bit some of my ways, the way I interacted with my husband. And I started sharing what I thought were insights at the time with my girlfriends, and it helped them and it helped me. And so I thought I would love to connect more and deeper with more women on this, because I think all I could think was how many of us are really being like this in our society. How many of us are just in our masculine all the time, and we're taking it back to our relationships. And I started from there. I started the blog and I shared it, and yeah, people read it now.
That's wonderful. And I totally agree with you. I feel like ever since women started becoming very serious about work and achievement and success and going out into the marketplace and really going for that, top rung ladder, that it's fine, fantastic that we've found our masculinity to be able to do that. But like you say, when you bring it back to the relationship, I mean, no wonder there is so much divorce these days. It just doesn't work, the masculine energy with the masculine energy in a relationship.
I like that action. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. That's it. Exactly. Yeah. So what have you found helps women, and I know this is such a huge, broad question, but, just kind of basically, what helps women to get back in touch with their feminine energy in their relationships?
What helps women get back in touch with their feminine energy? If I had to put it down to one thing, I would say committing to taking the time to reconnect with their feelings. So that could mean watching movies that they're passionate about. It could be watching movies where there are characters, where there are women who are very vulnerable. For example, Thandie Newton in the movie Crash. In that scene, she... actually, there's two scenes, and they're kind of juxtaposed against each other. One of them, she's taken advantage of by a cop, and then later in the movie, he comes to save her when she's in a burning car. And you see her closing off to that one man in the first scene that I talked about, and then when he comes to save her, she's surrendering to him, and I think that just really helps women connect with that part of themselves. And, by starting with a movie, there's less resistance for us, because going straight to doing it with a man can be very overwhelming, because they can be so intense and we don't quite know what to do.
That's very true. I love that you said getting in touch with your feelings, because society so much tells us, that feelings are messy. They don't belong in the societal discourse, and men are very afraid of very emotional women and so forth. So,
yeah.
But there is, of course, a balance to that, right? So I was looking at your blog, and looking for, things that you talk about that might be in relationship to the shadow. And I was wondering if you had an opinion about what is a shadow relationship? What does that mean to you? And how, what does that look like, and how do you define it?
Yeah, well, you're the first person I've known who's used that term, and I think it's fascinating. My first thought is that if you say heal your shadow relationship, I feel like that's about healing the parts of us that are hiding from real relationship. Basically, most of us spend most of our time in shadow relationships. We're sort of like hiding and sort of just relating on a surface level. So, a shadow relationship, healing that means just basically letting it come out. Um, and really relating and just valuing attunement with people. Yeah, I don't know if that made any sense. Did it make sense?
It made beautiful sense. You make it sound so easy, and yet I know that for many people it's not so easy to just let it out. But maybe for you it
No.
is. Maybe for you
Oh,
it
it's
is
gotten
because,
easier. Yeah.
yeah, because you are in tune with your feelings, and
Mm,
that probably is what helps you to just let it out, as you say. I did come
yeah.
across your blog that said 10 reasons why we should feel and share our pain. And I
Yeah.
was wondering if you wanted to share with us some of what you meant. Number one, you said the reason that we should feel and share our pain is because our feeling our pain makes us alive. So
Yeah.
why don't you explain that one?
Yeah. So, you know how in our society, a lot of the times, I mean, especially you see it on Facebook, people celebrate and like people's successes. But when it comes to pain, people kind of like don't know what to do. And not even that, sometimes people make it wrong and they use that concept of positive thinking like, oh, it's okay, everything will be fine, sort of thing. But I think that that just it ruins us as women because part of feminine energy is being attuned to not just what's positive but what's painful and negative. And in terms of making us more alive, when we don't feel our pain and when we don't share our pain, first of all, we stop relating to people. um, and if we make our lives and our feeling world all about avoiding what's hard, avoiding the pain, then essentially we're practicing shutting off. We're practicing closing down, and we're practicing having that mask, that veil, and we go into ourselves, and it makes, what we practice persists. So if we practice that with positive stuff, if we practice that with negative stuff, we block it out. Eventually, we can't feel anything good either because it becomes a habit.
That's a very good point. It becomes solidified as a general block that will block
Yeah.
us from everything. So that's why you're saying it will start to deaden us and
Yeah, it's a
get,
numbness. Yeah.
yeah, it's a numbness. Once you get in touch with it, that's why you're saying that that's what will make you come alive. And of course, that's what I'm calling the shadow. You just have different words for it. You're calling it the mask, or that,
Yeah.
but it's the
Oh.
same thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's a fascinating term. I like it. Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. I'm not going to take credit. Carl Jung came up with it way back,
Oh,
yeah, when he was teaching
right.
in the 40s or 30s or whenever it was. So
Right.
now you also say that avoidance of pain leads to mediocrity. So tell
Mm.
us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's superficiality. Avoiding pain makes us superficial, and we can only experience life, say that this is how much life there is. Superficiality, it transfers to all our experiences, and most of our experiences, what makes them good is the emotional quality. So if we're only going so far, there's all this left to experience. And, whilst the people who are willing to feel their pain are going through the pain, but when they come out, they're more sensitive to the joy. The rest of us who shut it out are living this mediocre, closed kind of afraid, fearful kind of existence. And
That
for me, living from fear all the time is mediocrity.
Absolutely, absolutely. You made such a good point that if you can feel more pain, you can feel more joy. And
Yeah.
actually, my favorite poet, Khalil Gibran, he said something like that. He said that pain is like a scythe that carves out your soul so that you can
Wow.
hold more joy.
Oh,
So
wow. That's beautiful. Yeah.
I know, I love that. And so the next thing that you say is that pain brings out your femininity. And you made this
Yes.
point earlier where you said that it is a feminine aspect to be in touch with your pain. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, it depends. Like, I'm not sure if your audience, prefers me to talk more about how this would help them in relating to men and getting
Absolutely.
more commitment or just life in general. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
relationships. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What was the question again? Sorry. I lost.
How does pain help to bring out your femininity?
Yes. So, well, one part of the feminine is about basically being sensitive, and that's what makes us alive. Masculinity, on the other hand, functions from a place of emptiness. It wants nothingness. It wants to be cleared of stuff, emotion. And being a feminine woman yourself, you would know what it's like to walk through the day and having thoughts about almost everything. Yeah, and feelings about almost everything. It's just a lot of us block that off. So, pain like joy is just aliveness. It's just that sense of somethingness. It's allowing ourselves to stop, to breathe, and really feel how people are making us feel. Really feel how the man, what he says, what he does, is making us feel, and getting out of our heads of the identity of what we want from him, what we think a relationship should be. And especially for women who end up in abusive relationships, or who end up in relationships where the man just won't commit, or is just not sensitive to her, we'll teach a man to become more sensitive to us by being more sensitive to our relations with him and to our own feelings.
Yeah, to our own selves, because then when we can get in touch with what we're feeling, like you say, so many of us go through the day and we block out all these thoughts and all these feelings we have. Of course, life goes by so fast,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you have so many impressions, and it's hard to stop and get in touch with one of them. But like you say, if you can, and if you can find a way to communicate it, now you are making a greater connection with your partner.
Yes, and I think that for a lot of women, especially in the US, I know so many women work and their career focus, which is totally fine. But in reality, if we were to really allow ourselves to surrender to the feeling world, to what's in our gut and to our feminine energy, we would probably break down crying quite a lot. And it's not that that has to be the case. It's just that when we first start becoming more sensitive, it crashes kind of, how to explain it? It's like, oh, there's all this feeling. But once we start feeling more, I think we just become a bit more balanced and able to flow.
And
Because
and
that's what
it
it's about. It's about flowing from pain to pleasure to excitement to just anything, whatever's happening in the relationship or the situation.
Yeah, it's like a river, like you're just flowing along the current.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you also say that surrendering to pain helps you to
Mm.
de-stress. So tell us
Mm.
about that one.
Well, research has shown that when you cry, tears actually reduce the stress in your body. Right. So that's the first point. But from experience with myself and with what I've heard or appear to have heard from other women, what I see is that when we don't surrender, we're not surrendering because of stress. So it's a stress response to resist our actual feelings.
Uh-huh.
So once we surrender, the stress starts to melt away.
Wow, that was really great. It's a stress response to not feel the feeling. That
Yeah,
I never thought about it that way before. So
yeah,
if you feel yourself stressed, in other words, and so many of us in modern life, God, we know that we're stressed, we just don't know how to
yeah,
get out of it. So
yeah.
if you feel yourself stressed, just ask yourself, what am I feeling? And surrender.
Yeah, sit down and just breathe into it. Just breathe into your body, you know.
Surrender to it, and then that is an opening to help you to get out of the stress. That's great.
Yes.
That's great. And of course, you're saying pain helps you to do the thing that matters, emotional growth. So
Yeah, of
tell us
course.
about that.
Well, when everything's good all the time, you don't really get growth. I don't know how you feel about this, but this is my
Oh,
experience
sure.
that when you create the idea that everything's great, you lose the opportunity to grow. So, but you know, when you experience pain, unless you kill yourself, there really is no choice when you surrender to pain to grow from it.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. Keeping things on the surface all the time is again, it's just mediocrity, it's fear, it's avoidance
Yeah,
of you know of what our bodies need to go through and what our relationships need to go through, especially in relationships where most of us are avoiding the painful stuff. You know, we avoid arguments or we please because we think, well, if I please him, he'll give me this. But in reality, what we're saying is, if I do this, then he'll do something that will avoid that can help me avoid feeling some kind of pain.
exactly. And you don't want to go there because it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve the relationship, right?
Yeah, so I mean, superficiality it matters for sometimes. We can't avoid it completely, and especially in some social situations, people don't want to go deep, and you need to be surface and you need to be superficial, and that's fine. But when it comes to intimate relationships, I believe it's important to go deep and to let the stuff come up.
Yes, yes. And as you say, avoiding the pain makes us boring and it makes the relationship boring and then there's no growth. But that does not mean that we don't want to strive to have a good experience in the
Oh, of course
relationship.
not. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, absolutely. Um, a good experience. Yeah, I suppose that depends on what's a good experience to you?
Well, I think where I'm going to go with it is something that you might say is
Mm.
if you share what's going on with you, share what your feelings are within you, then that brings you closer to your mate, to your partner, and that's a good
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Yes, yes.
Without getting into the superficial good experiences like going out for a good time, having a good time with friends, things like that. I mean, those
Mm,
are always enjoyable.
mm.
But I guess everybody has to define for themselves what is a good experience for them, what they're looking for, what do they want in life.
Yeah, and I think that what you said touches on something important for women because for a feminine person, there's no more joy than having the freedom of, like, for example, a man telling you, okay, you can express any feeling you have and I'll stay totally present. That's me trying to imitate a man. You know, for us, being able to express any feeling is ecstasy. We just don't really know it, I think, a lot of the time. Um, but we're afraid to do so because, as you said, a lot of men are afraid of our emotions. But if we don't start, then it will never start. Like, that didn't make any sense at all. If we don't start a little bit, we don't even give the man an opportunity to show us whether he's serious or not. And you
That's
know, over time, ideally, we would go deeper and deeper with a man, and he'd become more and more committed, and we become more and more open and surrender more and more, and sex would become better. Um, and we'd be less stressed, we'd be holding less feelings inside of us, and we'd just be open and free to experience almost everything.
that I'm getting a really beautiful picture of what you are describing here. You're describing, the what I'm going to call the river of life, where feelings come and go. And we as
Hmm.
women, we're such barometers and antennas for picking up
Yeah.
on all these feelings. And
Yes.
traditionally in society, the men cut themselves off from that because they have a
Yeah.
different purpose. They're focused on the outer
Mm,
world. They need to do things that will provide for their
exactly.
families, protect their families. And when they come to us for their relationship, when they come home, they get to experience that beautiful current of life, and it takes on many different colors because of all the
Yeah.
different feelings. As long as we don't hold on to any feeling or try to capture it or get
Yes.
solidified around it.
Mm.
I'm just having this realization because um, between my husband and myself,
Yeah.
he's very good, he's wonderful, and he's very present to my
Yeah.
feelings. But sometimes he feels responsible, like he needs to help me
Do
to
something.
fix the feeling so that I wouldn't feel it anymore. And I start getting really impatient and frustrated with that. And,
Yeah.
and I think you've just helped me clarify that if he could just be present and let it all flow, because once we get to express what we're feeling, then it goes away.
Yeah, and then that's when the truth and the problem solving has more value, I feel like.
Exactly.
So, like, and also I found that I think a lot of women may not be fully aware of this because we're not really taught to be in tune with our feelings. But I feel like my husband does the exact same thing that your husband does, as most men do to their wives and girlfriends, if they care about them, because that's a masculine way of giving love. Um, that when he tries, if I'm in the midst of feeling something and I happen to share it with him and he wants to solve it, that it actually hurts my body. I feel like it's the process of, all right, so now I have to stop feeling to hear what he's saying. Because what he's saying may be true, and it's the truth, because masculine likes to serve by telling us the truth. And the truth is great, but right now I really need to feel something. You know what I mean? And so it hurts to have to, it kind of encourages you to shut it down in a way, what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know that feeling. So we, of
Yeah.
course, understand that their intentions are excellent.
Yeah, that's their way of giving us love, and they really believe that they're loving us. And I love that my husband and your husband do that. There's definitely a place for it. It's just that I think we have to learn to say, "That's hurting me right now. I love you. Can you just stop? And I need to just feel this, and we'll come back to your solution in a moment."
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So,
Yeah.
you have given us quite a gift here by showing us how important it is to open up to our feelings and to open up to our pain. And that, I believe, for sure is the way to open to your shadow and to heal the shadow relationship. You also say something very interesting on your blog that positive thinking can cost us our life and our relationships. And so many spiritual people, because I'm a spiritual counselor, are so interested in staying positive and keeping the positive thinking. So explain to me what you meant by that it could cost us.
Yeah, well, the fact that you use the word staying, like staying positive to me indicates traction and it indicates something's being stopped. Now, I know that positive thinking has a lot of value for people, but when it comes to relationships, it depends which context we're talking about it in. You know, if a friend has an issue and we respond by telling them to stay positive, well, we lose the ability to relate to them. Because, you know, as women, if we were honest, we would say that we want somebody else to relate to and share our pain, even for a moment, because that makes us feel less alone. But if we were to like get stuck in this positive thinking thing, which might be more useful for an athlete, then we lose that ability to relate. And I suppose a lot of people don't want to go to pain with their friend because it causes them pain, you know, but
Absolutely.
it's a real gift to give that. And even in a relationship with a man, because men have feminine too, and men have pain too. So when a man comes, I'm sure you've experienced this in your relationship. If your husband's had an issue or something's going wrong, you might naturally go into your masculine and be like, well, would you like me to do this? Or, well, you could do that. Well, that's coming from a place of tension. And even just saying, you know, that's going to be all right. Well, that's just surface stuff. It doesn't allow it to go deeper. We need to listen to more about what the person's really communicating to us and go into their experience. That's what I believe.
That's very good. I think a lot of people want to stay on the positive thinking track because they're afraid of their pain.
Yeah.
They're afraid that if they go to that painful place, maybe they're afraid that they'll never come out of it.
Well, yeah, I can totally, totally relate to that. Pain can sometimes, you know, keep you. it can keep you there for days, weeks, months, years, even, especially if you aren't really letting yourself feel it. If you're sort of like, well, I don't really want to feel my pain, but I'm going to use it to make sure other people will give me attention, you know?
That is a very good distinction. You have to see what you're doing with your pain. Is it,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
I have known clients and people who just get caught in that depression or get caught in anger, resentment, bitterness. And so that I think those are the people that are reaching for positive thinking as their solution. And
Oh, okay. Yeah.
so, but what would be from your point of view? Because I'm very fascinated with your, recommendation of really staying with the pain. What would you say to somebody who is caught in a dark place and doesn't seem to be able to get themselves out of it?
Hmm. Can you give me an example?
Well, um, let's say you lost your spouse. They passed
Oh, yeah.
away, and you can't get out of the grieving. Maybe years have gone by, and you can't get out of the grieving.
Mm.
What can you say to somebody like that? I mean, certainly she's in touch with her pain. Certainly she's feeling it, but for some reason it's not lifting.
Yes. I think that sounds like a loss of hope. And I don't think that's really, in a situation like that, if I was working with somebody like that, I would do my best if I had the emotional resources to do so at the time to connect to her pain and really just experience her world to start with and just say, yes, it's tragic, it's soul destroying, it's horrible. And just feel it so much with her that suddenly there's a shift of something. There's got to be some other kind of emotion. In terms of what you would say, I don't think that I think that that holds more value when you really want to create a solution. As I said, I think relating is more important because those people are just desperately wanting to relate to someone or want someone to relate to them and make them feel less alone because losing someone, makes you feel really alone, especially if you've spent years and years with them.
Yes.
When it comes to solving their problem, I would guide them to focus on what's hopeful. Give them more self-esteem. Give them internal resources, and especially if it's a woman, praise her. Tell her how beautiful she is. Tell her what she's done is incredible. It's courageous. It's thoughtful. She's caring. And then it just depends on what other issues she really has. Is it that she feels like she's too old to find someone new, which is just a limited thinking? Is it that she just needs to grieve more? It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I hope
that's a
that
very
answered your question.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very good point. That there's probably something else underneath the grief, and you have to
Yeah.
go and look there and see what that is, and see if you can sort that out. So,
Yeah, I think you summarized it probably
yeah.
better than I did.
Oh, Renee, you're so modest. You're such a humble, feminine woman.
Thank
Um,
you.
I know that our half hour is coming to a close, unfortunately. It's been such a delight to go into your world and really get this sense of having a sensitive and feeling rich, sensual place for the feminine woman to be. And
Yeah.
I know that you have got a fabulous gift on your website.
Yes.
There's a download where people can go to thefemininewoman.com, and we've got the link right down here. And
Yes.
it helps you to become the world's most irresistible and attractive goddess. So,
Yes.
so tell us, Renee, what that gift is all about. Give us a little description and what people will find when they go there.
Yeah, so basically you can just come to thefemininewoman.com and if you feel like it, just sign up when the pop-up for how to become the world's most attractive and feminine goddess. Sign up and you can read it. If you like it, that's great. If you don't, just trash it and move on. I think that's the best thing I can say.
So the gift of World's Most Irresistible Attractive Goddess, that's one thing. And then going to your website and seeing quizzes and
Yeah.
looking at the core elements that makes you feminine without all the social conditioning. Well, that sounds interesting. Why don't you give us a little recap of that? What makes a woman feminine without all the social conditioning that we have learned over the years?
Trusting your natural ability to relate to other people. So really going into that place of attunement with how your girlfriends and how your man's really communicating to you, how they really make you feel, and not just being like, say, I once had a girlfriend who treated me awfully. She would say things like, we'd go out dancing, and she'd be like, stop dancing like that, stop dancing, you're a terrible dancer. And I'd just be like, okay. This was when I wasn't in tune to myself and to how people were really making me feel. Just go into that place where, hang on, in reality, that hurts. That's awful. That's an awful thing to say, and relate authentically and leave. She may not be a good friend. If she's a good friend, she'll might apologize and say sorry. It's just that place of authentic responsiveness.
Fantastic. I love that. That's what makes us feminine, the ability to relate. I love it. And we're not just talking men, women, men have an ability to relate as well.
Oh, absolutely. And to go a bit further with what you just said with the recap, it's just attunement and responsiveness.
Yes.
So less in here of the ideals and the idea of how we should be, how we should look to people, how pretty or attractive we should look, and more about in here and just feeling other people.
There you go. I think, Renee, that sums up your philosophy and your beautiful website, thefemininewoman.com. So thank you so much for being with us here today and sharing your wisdom and your thoughts. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you for the interview, and thanks for being here with me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, take care.